and I come across his book, which is called Cancer: Step Outside the Box, and I found out about why he wrote that, with his whole family going through, and he lost his family to cancer, and just the book hit me, and you can just feel his heart and who he truly is, and he's just here to, his calling from God is just to help others and help other people, and I felt that. And I never knew I was going to actually meet him, and then he was shooting the mini-series. Most of you saw the documentaries. Everybody see his documentaries, Bollinger, that I got to come in. He came down, flew into Chicago. We got to meet. We shot the film. That came out a while back. His second book, which is out there today, he sold, the first book, he sold over 160,000 copies of that. He's now getting ready to ramp up another mini-series. He's interviewed over 40 to 49 experts, scientists, people who reverse cancer, doctors. And this guy has so much knowledge. He's going to blow you guys away today. So I wanted to help bring to the first time Maximize Living stage, Bollinger.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much to Charles. You guys call him Chuck, I noticed. Dr. Majors, and to all the Maximize Living people that have brought me here. I haven't spoken at a Maximize Living conference before, but this is awesome. I was just telling one of the fellows backstage that I've spoken all over the country at every kind of convention, every kind of seminar, and there's nothing that compares to this today. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cram a 45 to 60 minute lecture into 25 minutes, and I'm already down to 24:17. So we better get going. All right? So what if I told you that there were multiple cures for cancer available that are being systematically suppressed? Would you believe that? Yeah. All right, I got some yeses. Many crowds, nobody says yes. I'm going to convince you tonight of why that is. I'm going to give you the reasons why that your conventional medical doctor might not know about some of these treatments that work so well. I'm going to go into the history of the AMA, and we're going to find out exactly why it is that your medical doctor, if you go to a medical doctor, learn nothing about nutrition when in medical school. So we're going to kind of have a history lesson. There's been a lot of good lectures thus far today that have gone into specifics on how you get healthy, how you stay healthy, aligning the spine, the importance of chiropractic, the nutrition, all of these things is what I typically cover, but I'm going to cut them out of this lecture, and we're just going to talk history here for a little while. Earlier today, I don't know who it was that was lecturing, was mentioning the rates of cancer. As you can see on this Cancer Facts and Figures 2013, this is straight from the American Cancer Society's website. You can go there today, pull this off. At the very top there, on the right top column, it says 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women today will be diagnosed with cancer. I think that was Dr. Majors who mentioned that statistic. He's not just making that up. It's on the ACS website. Not that they're this bastion of truth, but it's on their website. I mean, even mainstream medicine will tell you that 1 in 2, 1 in 3 people alive today are going to get cancer. It's an epidemic. Articles all over the globe. This is from the UK. Worldwide cancer rates to soar 70% within 20 years. So here's the game plan for tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, why I do what I do. We're going to go into history. We're going to talk about the big 3 cancer treatments. We're going to talk about iatrogenocide. Who knows what that means? Raise your hand. Okay? A handful of people, maybe a dozen. That's good. There's maybe 1,000 people here, so we're going to teach the rest of you what iatrogenocide is, because it's the #1 cause of death in the United States, and many people have never heard of it. We'll talk a little bit about frankenfoods, and then we'll get to a few natural cancer treatments if we have time. This is the reason that I do what I do. My family. And it's kind of strange. They look just like these people that are standing. Wait, is that you? Stand up, family. This is my family right here. This is Brianna, my wife Charlene. This is Tabitha, Bryce, and Charity. This is what I do. This is my family, and they are the reason that I am studying cancer, that I'm studying nutrition, that I'm teaching others to be healthy. Because I want my family to be healthy, and I want my children to have children. I want grandkids and great-grandkids. I want a healthy family. And so that's why I do what I do. That's why my wife Charlene, we're a team. We do this. Dr. Majors mentioned in my first book, It's called Cancer, Step Outside the Box. I published it in 2006, the first edition. I never dreamed that it would sell a copy. I looked at my wife, Charlene, and said, do you think we'll sell one, honey? Because at that time, I didn't write it to sell. I just wrote it because it was information that I thought needed to be out there. And as Charles mentioned, we've sold 160,000 plus copies today of this book. I just give God the glory for it. It's not because I'm a good marketer or Charlene's a good marketer. We're not, really. It's not because we knew anything about the publishing industry. We knew nothing. It's because God has blessed the book and the information in it is truth and it resonates with people. And so we give God the glory for the book sales, and we're just thankful to have been able to help so many people. You can see the pictures of the family here. My dad, my granddad, my cousin, my uncle, my grandma, my other granddad, my mother. All lost to cancer within 7 years. So I lost my whole family. I was the old, except for my grandmother, the one grandmother that was left. At the time I was 33 years old. I was the oldest person left in my family. They had all died of cancer. So that's why I wrote the book. So, what are your options? If you go to your medical doctor, if you go to a conventionally trained medical doctor, and when I say doctors today, I'm not talking about the doctors that are in this room. The doctors that are in this room are exceptional. They're not the ordinary doctors that I typically refer to in the lecture. So please don't lump yourself into that group. I know that you're not. I've talked to you today. The doctors here are exceptional. They're already thinking outside the box. That's why they're here. I'm talking about traditionally trained medical doctor. You go, you're diagnosed with cancer. What are your options? You've only got 3. You got chemo, radiation, and surgery typically. Now they may throw in, maybe you should stop smoking, or maybe you should stop drinking. That's their advice. That's their health advice. That's not good advice. But why are these your only options when all the studies show that chemotherapy is carcinogenic? What does that mean? It causes cancer. All the studies show that radiation, the medical literature is replete with studies that show that radiation poisoning causes cancer. But we treat cancer with radiation. What's the disconnect? And then surgery can cause the cancer to spread. Now sometimes it is necessary. If it's blocking an airway, if it's in the brain growing, there's no place for the tumor to go. A lot of times you've got to remove the tumor burden from the body. So I'm not saying that surgery is not sometimes necessary, but does that cure the cancer? Does that fix the cancer? No, because the tumor's not the problem. We'll get to that. The tumor's a symptom of the problem. Why are these your only options? When chemotherapy, this is the longest term study that's ever been done on chemotherapy. To my knowledge, it was done in Australia and United States. It was summarized in 2004. It's published on PubMed, National Institutes of Health. It was done at the Royal Sydney Cancer Centre in Sydney, Australia. They looked at 22 different types of cancer, over 20,000 patients, and they found that, you can see the very right bottom little red square, 2.1% effectiveness on 5 years. Chemotherapy. You might as well do nothing. You hear all these statistics from the mainstream medicine that says, oh, you do chemo, you got an 80% recovery chance, you got a 60% recovery. That's all nonsense. If you're looking at 5-year survival rate, chemotherapy, 2.1% effective. So, if these are as abysmal as they are, and believe me, they are, the big 3 treatments are horrible. Now, I'm not saying that some people aren't effectively treated with chemo, radiation, and surgery, but if they are this bad, why are they your only options? We're going to learn that today. But first of all, would they force chemotherapy on a child? You think they would? That's kind of cruel, isn't it? They have. They have forced chemotherapy on a child. Who's familiar with the story of Cut, Poison, Burn, the DVD documentary? Okay, Thomas Navarro. He was diagnosed with medulloblastoma, brain cancer. His parents, Jim and Donna, wanted to take him to the Brzezinski Clinic, who I actually interviewed Dr. Brzezinski for this upcoming The Quest for the Cures Continues, which will air in October. But they wanted to take him to Brzezinski Clinic. To make a long story short, they would not allow them, the FDA would not allow them until they had exhausted the standard of care. What standard of care? Chemo, radiation, surgery. It took, and the oncologist told Jim and Donna, I interviewed them, told them before Thomas underwent the chemo that he knew it wouldn't work. But they had to anyway. It took him 18 months to kill him. He died when he was 6. And on the death certificate, that's an actual copy of the death certificate, the reason for death was toxicity due to chemotherapy. So they knew, the oncologist knew it wouldn't work, they did it anyway, and it killed him. But the oncologist in that team of doctors is not in jail. Well, I'm not sure why. Here's another little girl, Selena Matthews. I've been dealing with her father, Jay, for the last couple of years. She has osteosarcoma in her left arm, bone cancer. And Jay had called me from down south in Arizona or New Mexico, I can't remember where. They had gone to a natural cancer clinic down there. They were treating her cancer naturally, but he said that he had been contacted by Chicago, it's the DFCS, Division of Family and Child Services, kind of like CPS here in Texas. And they had told him that if he did not bring his daughter, Selena, back to Chicago for chemo radiation, that they were going to take his other children because he was an unfit father. Now, Jay's not some country bumpkin that doesn't know anything. He's a pharmacist. And he read up on chemotherapy. He read all the studies on the chemotherapies they were going to try to give his daughter, found out they didn't work. So this is a very educated man. But being that he didn't want to lose his other kids, he took her back. They began to give her chemotherapy and radiation. And over the course of the next year to 18 months, they doused her with chemo and radiation. And just within the last year, they removed her left arm. It was killed, but the radiation killed her left arm, and they had to amputate. So they do this to children. It's a crime. There's a list of more children that have been forced chemotherapy, but this is just the beginning of the list. It goes on and on. But before we get any more of this, though, we're going to give you a quiz. We're going to lighten the mood a little bit. Who knows who these two guys are? The Mannings. Everybody knows the Mannings. Okay, who are these guys? The Wright brothers. All right. I didn't even have to do my airplane imitation. Good, the Wright brothers. Now, who are these guys? These are the guys that are responsible for determining who a real doctor is. These two brothers have influenced your life more than any other set of brothers in the whole 21st century, 20th century, and 21st century. And nobody in the crowd knows who they are. This is Abraham and Simon Flexner. Who've heard of the Flexner brothers? Maybe 6 people? The Flexner Report? All right, so good. I'm glad that we had this because you're going to learn some history today. And after today, you're going to understand why modern medicine has a pill for every ill and that sickness is treated with drugs and more drugs, and why medical doctors today are not taught anything about nutrition or the things that we're learning about at this Maximize Living seminar. The Flexner Report of 1910. Abraham Flexner, Simon Flexner, as I said, were brothers. The American Medical Association had the goal to reform medical education in the United States. They had run out of money. They were plumb broke. So they approached the Rockefellers and the Carnegies. And they wanted to get some funding to finish this project. And the Rockefeller and the Carnegies, they weren't short of money at all. So they were glad to give the money up as long as they could control the rest of the study. So they put Simon Flexner was on the Rockefeller Institute board. He recommended that his brother Abraham lead the study. Now, what they wanted to do to reform medical education is they wanted to travel and visit every medical school in the United States. And they were going to determine which ones were teaching sound medicine. But once the Rockefellers and the Carnegies took over, they had a great idea. They're going to put Abraham Flexner in charge of this. By the way, he had never had any kind of education in health and medicine at all. He had run a boys' school that had gone bankrupt. So he was not a doctor. He was not educated in medicine at all. But he was the one in charge of evaluating every medical school in existence at that time in 1910. And they did. And he traveled with P. Coldwell, which was the head of the Council on Medical Education in the American Medical Association, and they evaluated every medical school in the United States. And the medical schools that were teaching drug-intensive medicine were the ones that received the high marks. And the medical schools that were teaching homeopathy, herbalism, chiropractic, naturopathy, anything natural, anything nature-based, anything nutrition-based, those medical schools received low grades. And then after this report was submitted to the Carnegie Foundation and then eventually to the U.S. Congress in 1910, it later became known as the Flexner Report. After this report was submitted to them, Carnegie and Rockefeller showered over $550 million on the schools that received the highest grades, the highest evaluations. Now, in 1910 dollars, that was the equivalent of today, due to the devaluation of the dollar, about $20 billion that the medical schools received that were teaching drug-intensive medicine. In the end, it's not hard to understand why the schools that received the funding were the ones that lasted, right? Money talks. They were able to build big fancy facilities. They had all the equipment. They had the important professors. And if you didn't get a degree from a Flexner-approved medical school in the end, you could not become a medical doctor. Now, this is kind of interesting that Rockefeller was one of the ones that funded this. This is one of the reasons why everyone in here that's a doctor of chiropractic, raise your hand, DCs. Okay, we got a huge amount. Half the room is DCs. Did you know that this is the reason that people